Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, is in Myanmar as we speak at a time when it is making headlines for all the wrong reasons. There are reports of a massive exodus of Rohingyas from Myanmar's Rakhine state to neighboring Bangladesh, of their homes and villages being torched, of killings by the Myanmar army and Buddhist mobs. Myanmar's leaders, including State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, is expected to brief him on the Rohingya issue. She is also expected to brief him on the activities of the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, which India has described as a terrorist organization. This is what the conflict looks like right now, and these are India's concerns. The key one is that the Rohingya conflict could trigger another insurgency in Myanmar. There are no less than 8 insurgent groups. 4, including the Rohingya Salvation Army, are attacking the Myanmar army. The conflict expands. If it expands, it could destabilize the state. There could be outside intervention, or the army could take over, crushing its young democracy. Myanmar is a crucial link in India's Look East policy. It is a member of ASEAN, with which India is building close economic and political ties and to counter China's hegemonic presence. China is also the reason why India needs to be on good terms with Myanmar. China has invested heavily in that country, developing ports, roads and highways, buying Myanmar's gas. Myanmar is a profitable market for the Chinese goods, It has enabled the Chinese to expand into the country in strategic terms and deepen India's insecurities in the northeast. Myanmar is also a useful ally in helping India tackle the threat posed by insurgent groups in the northeast, like the United Liberation Front of Assam, the Naga rebels and others. Myanmar gives India intelligence as to the location and movement of such groups that use its territory as their base. Prime Minister Modi will use his visit to leverage India's ties with the government there, and India is also likely to expand its development program in that country, help build capacity in its government by training its nationals and deepen its involvement in Myanmar's democratic growth. Joining us now for more on this story, of course, Ambassador Arun Singh is with me in the studio. We'll also be joined by V. Sheshadri, former ambassador to Myanmar, and WION's own Kartikeya Sharma, who's reporting from that country and is going to be bringing us ground reports, will be joining us live right now. Kartikeya, let me begin with you, and good evening to everyone here. As the Prime Minister lands, what is the thrust of India's diplomatic overture? What specifically are we looking at in Myanmar?
It's going to be a multi-pronged approach when it comes to Myanmar. Now, India had been dealing with Myanmar, and Myanmar had gone through a lot of shifts in its political life. You know, there were elections, but then the military has its role. But the Prime Minister is trying to engage both constituents of the Myanmarese political system. He understands that the Indian interest needs to be pursued. There is commitment to human rights and democracy, but within the limited framework and given the choices India has, India needs to pursue its interests, whether it's in terms of investments, whether it's in terms of Act East policy, neighborhood policy, because India understands that Myanmar is an important neighbor, shares boundary with China. India has its own interests there. There are a lot of people of Indian origin, and India can gain through a fruitful relationship with our country, with which we had such close cultural contacts. So it's going to be about security. It's also going to be about economy in terms of shared projects, linkages, which Indian, I would say, establishment is looking forward to.
Ambassador Singh, we are looking at huge investments by the Chinese, and this is a story, it seems, this is a script that's repeated in country after country. Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Maldives, with varying degree of success. So the Chinese are putting in money and they're doing their checkbook diplomacy, and we go there and we talk about culture. How successful can that be?
So obviously the kind of economic effort any country makes is also linked to their capacity. And China's GDP now has grown significantly since 1979, including several times since the early 2000s. And therefore they have surplus capital, they have surplus capacity in their industry, and therefore they are investing in countries and trying also to use their investment and the loans they give to export based on their surplus capacity. But there are concerns in many countries about the indebtedness that is being generated, the lack of transparency in many of the projects that China has been supporting in these countries, and projects that they have funded very often have not done very well, and then they have taken them on as equity. So there is concern at how resources are being transferred, assets are being transferred to China. So we'll see how that process plays out, and therefore on some of these projects, including those in connection with the Belt and Road Initiative of China, the Indian government has clearly expressed some of these concerns. Now, we have to work, I believe, based on our capacity and our strengths, and we need not match others specifically based on what they are doing, but on our asymmetric capacities. And it's not just cultural. We are providing economic assistance and support. If you look at Afghanistan, for example, India has provided $2 billion worth of assistance to Afghanistan, and it has worked extremely well. The Indian assistance in Afghanistan has been rated by most countries as among the most impactful and successful development assistance. And even in Myanmar, India has given assistance amounting to about $1.7 billion, and much of it as grant. So I think assessing where our strengths lie, where our capacities are best, we should work to maximize the impact of what we are doing.
Ambassador Seshadri, in a recent visit to Sri Lanka, the Prime Minister, it was said, played the Buddhist card. And it was very well received there. And India is trying to work on fixing the image of the big brother and the regional bully, and then trying to be friends or reworking the relationship it has with its neighbors. Is that the effort in Myanmar also, given the number of places he's visited?
Yes, I think so. And what was pointed out by Ambassador Arun Singh is very relevant in Myanmar as well. Because what we are trying to do here is to cast our own model of development cooperation and philosophy. First of all, capacity building is a very important area that we are emphasizing in Myanmar. I will give you one example. For example, we are setting up the Myanmar Institute of Information Technology with the collaboration of IIIT Bangalore. This will be more or less a full-fledged university, training candidates in BE, 5-year course, in computer science, in electronics. They also have postgraduate courses in computer science. Already, the institute is about 2 years old. 30 postgraduates have graduated from this institution, and all of them have found employment. And can you imagine in 5 years' time, if you have 120 B students coming out every year, and at the end of their finishing, you will have 600 plus Bachelor of Engineering students coming out of this institute, which will have a tremendous impact, just as IIT has had an impact in India. And already within the span of 2 years, MIIT is rated as number 5 institution in all the technical institutions in Myanmar, and I'm sure sooner than later it will become number 1. So what we have also set up several other institutions like the Advanced Agricultural Research Center in a place called AZIN, which is an agriculture university, specializing on oil seeds and pulses, which are of core interest both to Myanmar and India. So we are picking up areas of interest, and the need has to be expressed by Myanmar itself. What is it that they want?
Right. I'm being told that we have to take a break at this point. I want to continue this discussion, so I'm going to request you to stay with us. Taking a very short break. Up ahead, we'll discuss how India is going to deal with the Rohingya issue and how that is expected to come up in talks with leaders in Myanmar. Do stay with us.